All right. So let's start again. How are you?
I am great. Got my vintage Virginia hat on now that we have new logos and my national champions mug. So I'm all set.
Everything tastes better when you drink it out of a national championship mug. It's true.
Yeah, I'm glad that we get to be the reigning champions for another year. Sad circumstance, but we'll take it maybe.
Yeah. We get to claim it.
Yeah.
Or at least I am anyway.
Are right now.
Yeah. So how have you been? How are you holding up during this time?
It's kind of business as usual for a lot of track athletes because we can still get outside and run, thankfully. Obviously, athletes that need more, implements or throwing cages or jumping mats, like that's a little harder. But for distance runners who are able to kind of keeping on, and not quite sure when races will truly start up again. We're kind of anticipating maybe mid-August to September. So we're just kind of cruising along and trying to keep fitness going and prepare now that we have 13 months until the Olympic trials instead of just 1 month. So
Right. Yeah. So
yeah.
So how much do you run in a typical day?
Well, I usually run anywhere from 70 to 80 miles a week. So that would probably put me between 8 to 10 miles on a normal day. And then I'll have a longer run that's more like 14 or 15 miles on the weekend. So just in that range.
Wow. 70, 80 miles. I'm not sure I've done that in my whole life. So,
well, it's part of this is what we do.
that's right. So how are you staying, you said you're able to get out and run. What else you've been doing during quarantine to, take your mind off of COVID-19, I guess?
Well, it's tough. Lots of time for Netflix, of course. Catching up on some reading. I try to stay in the loop with what's going on with colleges and universities and athletic departments. One of my post running goals is to get into athletic administration. So just trying to kind of stay in the loop with how athletic departments are handling this. I mean, I don't envy any athletic director for having to navigate this time.
Yeah.
So
It's been a challenge just being a part of just trying to find things to do and try to, be creative. And this is why I'm doing this, is to try to just, have something we're trying to create content and reach out to some of our favorite alums.
Well, I was going to say, it's really fun that you have such a big treasure trove of images, and I've loved seeing your kids pick out some of their favorites from the past. So that's exciting.
It's been a fun thing we've been doing. Some days are better than others. Some days they fight me on it, but most days they have fun with it. So now they're getting into the props and trying to reenact the photos. So you can tell we're almost 50 days into working from home.
Well, I know they're basketball fans. Which sports do they do?
Carter's a big baseball. He loves baseball. He loves golf. He loves tennis. My younger one, Evan, has just started. He's actually, for 4, he's really good at hitting a baseball. It's crazy how I can throw it to him and he hits it and runs the whole 9 yards. Loves it. So
that's awesome.
We do a lot of that, and we have a hoop in the driveway, so we play basketball almost daily here. So
okay, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad they're able to keep training a little bit and stay a little engaged with sports.
Right. It's Carter is always Malcolm Brogdon in the driveway, and I've been Kyle Guy recently. So so there you have it.
Well, hopefully you could stay as cool as he did with those 3 free throws.
I've tried. I try to reenact them every now and then, but I'm definitely not as good. I'm hoping to get Kyle on here. So hopefully, if Kyle, you're watching, Come on.
Please. Kyle's now in Sacramento, where I was training last year, and now I'm in Phoenix, where Ty Jerome is. So I really hope NBA can start back up, because I would love to go see Ty at a Suns game.
That would be awesome. So how is training in Phoenix? Is it super hot? What's
Yes, it is. Right now, the past month, our highs are starting to get to like 105, 104, and the problem is that it stays hot even into the night. So unless you're up at 5 a.m., which that's not my specialty, you're gonna have to run in the heat, and just it's a valley, so we get just all the heat gets trapped here throughout the day, and it's a fun challenge, but I have to race in some hot places, so might as well get used to it.
Yeah. So what does that look like, with it being 13 months out till Olympic trials, you said? So how do you re-prepare yourself for that? You kind of gear up for it, and then.
Yeah, we're kind of using this time to work on some of my weaknesses and just kind of not have that pressure of a competition, just get back to some of the basics of what I do as a steeplechaser, which is hurdling, water jumps, all those fun things. I actually it's been a few years since I've run a steeple because of some injuries and some different goals I've had. And so it's just been nice to be able to get back to hurdling without any, deadline or like I'm racing next weekend, so this better be right. I can just kind of get back to enjoying it and working on the basics. So that's kind of what we're doing right now. We're kind of spending these few months to get back to that.
Awesome. Well, I have some steeplechase questions, so we'll save those for the photos, but I definitely have some questions on that. So we'll do that. One last thing, you're talking about Ty Jerome, cow guy. Do you have a favorite sport to watch other than running? What's your go-to sport to cheer on?
I am just a sports fan in general. Like I guess I would say I love men's college basketball, probably the best. I do love football now that our team is much stronger than when I was there. I actually was really lucky. I got to go to the ACC championship game, sit on the 50-yard line, although I was surrounded by Clemson fans, so that wasn't as fun. But I love all the Olympic sports. I love watching golf. I love swimming. I actually have not been to a field hockey game, but I would love to see it. So I'm a big fan of all of our Who's. So.
All right. Yeah, football has been fun the last couple of years. So Bronco has really got things going, and it looks like the recruiting is going well. So hopefully they can keep it rolling.
It's so exciting. I've decided that if I have a son ever, he's going to be named Bronco Bennett. So.
I like that. I like that. There you go. Very, very UVA.
Yeah.
All right. And how about track? Do you keep up with what's going on with the track program? Do you?
Oh, I wasn't an athlete under the former head coach, Coach Spetzer, but he's always been super generous and keeping me in the loop with what was going on with the program. And now I'm obviously super excited with the new head coach. I think it's going to be a game changer for our distance program. It's been really fun to see the track and field side of it grow stronger. But when I was there, that's such a history of distance strength that I'd love to kind of see that grow again.
Yeah. So do you know Vin at all?
A little bit through like USA Track and Field. And, he's always been super kind to me as an athlete. And I haven't had a chance to, get back to Charlottesville because I'm not traveling right now. But I would love to kind of get back to town and go for a jog with him and hear more about how he's planning to grow the program.
We'll have to set that up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now let's get to the photos here. I'm going to share the screen and we'll get started. the real part of this call. So this
This was
is
you were new there. Like you were new when I was an athlete.
yeah. I started May of '06, and you were what, '08? When was your first year?
My first year was actually fall of '06. So
Oh, okay. Yeah.
we've had the same tenure, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, we did a lot of you were kind of at the beginning of my learning how to do some things. So I'm looking through some of these photos like, man, I wish I could go back and redo, some of the things of knowing what I know now.
Right.
So yeah. All right, here's the first one. Short hair in this one. This was
Short hair.
you had just got a cut, I believe, like right before we did this.
Yeah, that was fourth year. So I don't know why I did the short hair, but there you go.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, these are in no particular order. So yeah, let's start. I'm going to start with a funny one here.
oh
What's
my
going on
gosh.
here?
I have no. I feel like we was I think we had like rain, like water
Yeah,
going
here's
on.
this is. I was just showing a behind the scenes of the
I love
luxurious
it.
the cage at U-Haul.
The cage. Wow, that's such a throwback.
I
For
put this in
future
there just so we could talk about the cage. Um, what are your
for future
memories
athletes,
of the cage?
yeah, I it was always a little sketchy, and you know, again, the field athletes, the throwers, the jumpers, the sprinters spent more time in there than we did. We kind of would meet there in the winter and leave for our runs, but yeah, it was a little grimy, but that's okay. We were a grimy team, blue collar, worked hard.
Yeah, now they've got a big bubble right now they're training in. So
I know, luxurious.
yeah, it's good. So, but yeah, things are looking up, but a lot better than the cage. I will say that.
We got
But
it done.
I just put this in here to show the behind the scenes. Let me pull up a couple of shots from that actual shoot here. So
Oh yeah, look at that.
yeah, pretty good.
It's always nice when you have some hardware in a photo.
That's right. And then let's see. Yeah, we did some rain effects in this one too. But yeah, it was pretty cool. I remember. Not sure why we had the idea to do the water, but the
I'm sure it
cage.
was because I was a steepler.
Right.
So in that like water effect of of a um a
Yeah,
jump would
I remember that day we started here. We started out by the field hockey field actually, and
yeah. Hmm?
did a couple shots out there. So I
Oh
thought
my
these were
gosh.
cool. Very
Yeah.
nice looking photos. So do you
Very good photography. Yes.
yeah, did you have any of our shoots we did? Did you have a favorite?
Well, I remember I see that like further down you have one with me and Loretta and Morgan. Those were two of my teammates. And that was just kind of fun to do something with some of the other girls looking fierce. And I feel like that was before our track season, I think. And I remember that was down by the law school and by where the softball fields are. I can't remember if you did any running shots then, but
Yeah,
that was fun.
I remember it was
Teammates.
really windy that day, and I think we were trying to get it in before it started raining because it definitely looks pretty ominous, but it actually turned out pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it worked for the menacing, fierce effect. And then obviously, of course, I loved what we did with the water jump. And I don't think I actually ran over the water jump, but just kind of posing in the water pit was just so fun. And yeah, I think that was a fake run out.
Definitely,
But
definitely a fake
oh
one.
my gosh, but
I,
like just so
that was good. Yeah, I was gonna pull up the one. This was the one that I posted the other day.
I love that one. Yeah, it's just such a cool, like, I feel like during a race, there were always photographers kind of in that general area, but no one's going to actually be in the, in our stride path. And so this is just a really fun angle that you got. And it really shows how much fun the steeplechase is as an event.
Well, that's like I was said in the tweet when I tweeted this photo, like that water drop that's like right there on your shoulder has always kind of annoyed me. But then at the same time, it's also means that water did come right at the camera and it's a part of the photo.
Right. It's an action shot for sure.
But yeah, that's when you mentioned like all the photographers that I made it to the NCAA track championships for the first time last year, actually. And when the steeplechase is getting ready to happen because it's like a migration of all the photographers there. So
yes, it's hard to get a really strong shot of the water jump because, as you're seeing, your lens gets wet if you're too close, or there's just so many bodies flailing around that you can just get some unflattering angles. But this, I think, is a really fun capture that you have here. So you did good.
How about this one from that day?
It's hard as a runner because I find that running photos are either really, really fierce or they're really horrible. And so when you do a photo shoot, it's a little tough to kind of think like, well, I'll just stretch. I'm not quite always sure what photographers want from you besides, just do a stride in front of me. And so this is one of those traditional like track photos.
Yeah. How many photo shoots do you do now as a professional?
I did a lot more in my early days as an athlete with New Balance because they used their sponsored athletes a lot in their marketing. They've kind of moved away from that, and mostly because they want us to not feel burdened, like, oh, you have to travel to LA for this shoot when you're training. So I haven't done a ton recently. I like to get photos done because you got to have a great Instagram game. But yeah, it's been a little while. I'll have to come to Charlottesville to do one with you again.
Well, it sounds good to me. Let's go. Let's see here. Where was I going to go next? Let's talk about this night. This was ACC championship in the rain at Duke.
Yes. So my very first steeplechase was at Duke, and then this was a great moment to win the championship. And again, like you just mentioned, it's a rainy night. It was a really great race for me, and kind of starting a really great championship season for me that year, my 5th year. So yeah, really exciting. Yay.
Yeah, this was one of my favorites from that night. This was a good one.
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I've seen that one. That's really cute.
So
it was a really like happy memory. Obviously to win a championship is exciting, and I just have so much school spirit that to do it for Virginia as a senior just was really special.
Yeah, so that night we were playing Duke in lacrosse. So I was kind of going back and forth, and then we were getting blown out in lacrosse. So I was like, I got to get back. I got to make it for I need to be there for the steeple. So I did not shoot the whole race. So I luckily was able to get a few frames and then capture this. So I was glad to be able to be there for that.
Exactly. You got the best part, the finale.
I put this because I stumbled across this, so trying to find photos was crazy. But I remember this cross country. This was this was a hurricane. We were literally there. I believe, was it Hurricane Helen? I can't remember what the name of it was, but I remember my wife saying, they can't possibly be going to have I'm like, oh yeah, it's happening.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, this is so fun. Honestly, we have one of the hardest cross country courses in the country, like hands down. No one likes to race at Panorama Farms because it's so challenging. And I kind of love that about our home course. And true cross country is exactly this, just muddy and rainy and slipping around. And so I do love that you were able to get out there for that. I have some photos from that as well, and that's such a great. Those are good photos you got.
Do you have a favorite Panorama Farms memory?
Just I don't think so. Just suffering. It was when Jason Dunn was my coach for my first 2 years there. I had a lot of experiences at Virginia, but first was Jason Dunn, who's there again now, and we would go out there all the time for workouts, and I just have a lot of memories of suffering on those hills. So
yeah, it's always fun to go out there though, because you only make it out there once or twice a year because not many meets, obviously, so it's always fun. It's fun
and
to
it's always on
have something
football,
different.
so it's probably hard for you to get out there for that.
Yeah, so I gotta throw this. This is early Steph Garcia here. That is some
Look at
passion
those.
right there.
Well, I know I was going to say, look at that jacket. That is intense, but it's better than hokey colors, so I'll take it.
Anything is better than hokey colors. I will say that. But I hated that they always make everybody wear the same track jacket for the headshots, and like that's probably like a size large,
Oh, I know, because we all had to wear, like, you just pass it along. So I know, that's hilarious. I'm sure that's what my freshman year, probably, if it's like
I think so.
06, 07.
I believe so. All right,
That's
here
a
we
baby.
had to throw one from the old track in there,
Oh, yes. And it's great because I barely ran on that track because we didn't host that many home meets. And it was always very early season. So just because of being a steeplechaser or whatever, I always kind of started my season a little bit later. And I remember I got to run the 1500, which I never really did. And then I think I ran a relay too. And so that's so fun.
Yeah, I did stumble across a photo of you with a baton somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was in the DMR my 5th year when we were 3rd at NCAA's. So I was part of a relay for that, but outdoor track, we didn't really do too many relays. So this is so fun. And then my teammate Loretta in the background, like, that's good memories there.
And the blue track. You don't see the blue track very often.
I just missed it so much. The new track, of course, is stunning and like such high quality. But that blue track was special.
That blue track was special. But yeah, there weren't many home meets back in your early days. And then really when Fetzer got there, they started hosting a lot of meets. I feel like we have one like every weekend. And
I know, and he did a great job. One thing I will say that I wish I had the experience of is that Fetzer was so great at bringing in, cool announcers and the marching band and the cheerleaders. Like, he really made it a big event, and I think that was a great way to, bring a little bit more crowds in, make it more festive.
What was that one? The track, the ATL or whatever. The one night that Lolo Jones came, and it was like a dance team there, and the drummer, like the bucket drummers. It was it was a fun night, but yeah, that was good. Actually, Fetzer actually messaged me couple weeks or about a week ago, actually, looking for some photos of himself in action. And boy, that guy, he had quite the fashion sense.
He had extreme fashion sense. And but you know what, like I feel like that whole era when he was the head coach was just, it was a lighter, fun, it makes me think of, the sprinters and the jumpers just having a lot of fun, whereas the distance runners were always a little more high strung, a little more like serious in a different way. So
Yeah. Here you go. I remember this shoot.
gosh, I barely remember this. I don't know what we were doing there.
I believe
It's weird.
I had you wear normal clothes for like a student athlete type, just so I think you threw a book bag on, and
Yeah.
so had to work in a
That
few modeling shots while we were there.
Well, didn't you have a little setup that was like right by the wrestling room or something?
I did.
Yeah, I remember.
It was affectionately called the dungeon. It was an old racquetball court that had been turned into like an archive room, and then once we moved to JPJ, all the archives went to JPJ, and it kind of became my photo studio. So
Yeah, I love.
I miss that place. A lot of memories in there,
Yes, you did a lot of shoots there.
except it was very hot, and it smelled awful.
Oh yeah, well once you bring in sweaty athletes, like you know, I feel like you did a lot. I remember having, there were like a lot of us going in there, when you were doing team shots and stuff, and so yeah, that could get pretty grungy, I'm sure.
Yeah. Do you remember this?
I don't actually remember this. This looks like it was again down by the law school, maybe.
Oh, this is
Maybe not.
actually
No,
over by
this is
McIntyre
McIntyre.
Park. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember this vaguely.
So I had the idea of like getting like the streaks of the lights in the background, but there was like no traffic. Like I don't know, like there was like we were up there, and I remember it was like freezing cold that night. I remember, and I felt terrible for having you out there in your uniform.
I remember this. This is so funny. And I just have to say that high school Steph Steeples would be looking at this thinking like, oh my gosh, you're in these little like buns or the boy shorts. Like that's horrible. Because that was not how we raced in high school. It was so embarrassing to like have to put on the buns, when you're a freshman and not used to it. And this is my senior year, but it's just so funny to see just no inhibitions. We're going for it.
Out in the middle of traffic in the background.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back to the steeple shot, and let's talk a little bit about how does one get into steeplechase?
I think you have to be slightly insane. I honestly, this is the story about the steeple. Was I actually was just a walk-on at UVA my freshman year. I was lightly recruited enough so that Jason Dunn said, yes, you have a spot, but we have no scholarship or anything for you. You can earn one or whatever. And so I didn't know anything. Was like, great, cool, see you at practice. And I honestly I wasn't fast enough as a freshman to run the 1500. And I definitely did not want to run the 5K on the track. That seemed horrible to me, all those laps. And so the perfect distance for me was the 3K. And when I learned about the steeple, I thought it sounded like so much fun. You got to kind of be a hurdler. You got to jump into this water pit. It just seemed like it was just the most fun you could have on the track. And so I went up to him, that winter and said, I want to learn the steeple. He thought I was kind of crazy because I think they had to it was like pulling teeth to get girls to steeple. And so, he took me on, and, my very freshman year, I qualified for the NCAA championships. So it was a perfect fit. So just a great combination of athleticism, and adventure, and that, you know, you still have to be a strong distance runner, but you also have to have some speed and some agility. And so I don't know, I just loved it. I do love it. So I'm very grateful that he decided to throw me in it, even though he probably thought I would have, you know, had no business being there.
How painful is it if you fall?
Kind of depends how you fall. I've had plenty of falls. I will say that for the most part, it's just so jarring, and it feels like you're on the ground for 5 minutes, but it's probably, you know, half a second. So it just, in the moment, your first reaction is like, you just got to keep going. You got to catch back up. And so for me, it just, you don't even feel any pain until much later on.
I mean, I can't imagine, like, especially like if you're in the crowd and like, do you people get spikes in you? And like, do you ever had one that bad?
Well, I haven't. I've been lucky that when I have fallen in the steeple, it has not been around crowds. So that is great. I get to just, you know, roll down the track and get up and keep going. But I have. It's hard to, when everyone's all jammed up and hurtling at the same time. You can definitely get kind of kicked, and, you know, lower legs get some spikes in them just from people kicking you as they go over the barrier when you're all kind of jammed up and trying to hold your spot as you're hurdling. So that's the big difference between this and like the proper, you know, 400-meter
Right.
hurdles. They all have their own lane. They don't have to worry about anyone, you know, elbowing them as they're going over a barrier.
Now, I know you've had some tough falls. Do you have one that was the which one's the most painful?
The most painful one was the 2016 Olympic trials. The last barrier, I fell and I was in fourth place. I was trailing two girls. I don't know if I would have passed one of them or whatever, but it was the last 200 meters. We got over the water jump. They passed me coming out of it. And on the very last barrier, I clipped it and fell. And there was my Olympic dream, you know. So that was really devastating, but luckily it didn't hurt that badly. But just my just kind of dashed that dream. But that's the great thing about Olympic trials. There's one every 4 years, and so, you know, that's what we're kind of working on getting back to.
Yeah, it's how you know. I mean, I can only imagine. You know, you have that every 4 years, like you said. Like you have that shot. Like how? I mean, how do you recover from that?
What do you mean recover?
Just it's so long till you get to actually have that shot again.
I think you have to define success by other means to keep yourself going. We're lucky we do have world championships every 2 years, and that's a really exciting
Right.
team to make. I've been on two of those teams, and you know, there's really high level races all around the world that you can go and try and just stack up against the best in the world. So we have some fun opportunities throughout the whole Olympic cycle to kind of keep the momentum going. But it is hard when the average person who doesn't really follow track, they hear you're a runner, and they ask you two questions. They say, what's your marathon time? Because they assume that you're a marathoner. Or they say, are you an Olympian? And if you can't answer either of those questions, they say, well, I thought you said you were a runner. So it is hard to say, I've had this really great career, but I'm not an Olympian. And you just have to kind of find ways to measure your own success that doesn't necessarily include that distinction.
Well, let's hope you can add it in the next one.
I know. Yeah, I am like obviously bummed that it's pushed back, but I'm also grateful for the extra time. You know, I really this might sound weird. I miss this like fearless girl that we're seeing on the screen right now, because, you know, she wasn't afraid of anything and wasn't afraid of failure, because it wasn't really, I don't know. I think when you get older and you have wins and you have losses, sometimes it's hard to balance. And when you're a collegiate athlete, it's just like the world is your oyster. And yes, you have bad races, but I don't know, you just don't feel that as deeply as you do when it's, you know, when you're a pro or whatever.
Yeah. All right, let's switch gears here. I gotta go back to this. Any aspirations to be a sideline reporter once your running career is over?
Oh, honestly, it would be so fun, but I have to say, it's got to be one of the hardest jobs ever. I remember this was for ESPNU. I can't remember exactly how I got connected. Maybe it was through you. But to be able to stand on the sideline, I can't remember who we were playing, but we won, I think. And just have to like say things on the spot and not have a script, or, you know, have to just jive off of what's happening. That's really challenging. So I have to say that I would love to. I don't know if I have the skills to, but that was
Now,
a really fun night.
now I remember you were kind of into the journalism thing. You wrote, you wrote for The Hook? Was that?
Yep, I did. I was the arts and entertainment editor of the Cavalier Daily for 2 years. And then I got an internship one summer with this Charlottesville News Weekly, and then kind of just kept with it. And it was so fun. I wasn't the sports reporter for them, but yeah, that's definitely, when I came to UVA, I wanted to be a journalist. That was like my career goal.
So fun fact, I did student newspaper all through college at Marshall, and I had zero interest in journalism. I chose the shortest line at orientation because I had an American Legion baseball game that afternoon, and I was going to be late if I waited in the education line. I wanted to be a gym teacher and coach
Mm-hmm.
baseball like my dad, and the line was too long. So I asked somebody, and they were like, "Just choose the shortest line, and you can just change." So I ended up doing journalism. Loved my advisor. Loved my first journalism class, and then kind of went from there. And so then 9/11 happened when I was in one of the breaking news reporting classes, and it was like in class it's happening. So our professor was like, all right, we're going to try to cover this like we're journalists. So that kind of
Right.
hooked me. And then I started, when I had the student newspaper class, you had to draw out of a hat what your beat was, and I got women's sports. So that kind
Oh,
of got me
wow.
into sports writing. And so, and as I became
Wow.
the sports, go
Sorry.
ahead.
No, I was saying this is an amazing story. Keep going.
So I was a sports writer and sports editor, and my senior year, our photographer got a job at the local paper, so we had nobody to take pictures. So I kind of had to pick up the camera, and if I wanted photos for my pages I had to lay out, I needed images, obviously. So it's kind of by necessity that I had to learn. And the campus photographer at Marshall kind of took me under his wing and showed me some things, and so it was kind of cool. Kind of cool how
I
that
think that,
happened. And the movie We Are Marshall was actually being filmed with Matthew McConaughey when I was in school and in grad school. So the photographer at Marshall like had no interest in like following Matthew McConaughey around all the time. So I got that job. I got to kind of hang
oh,
out and follow Matthew McConaughey around a lot during the filming of some of the scenes. So
that's amazing.
cool.
Because first of all, like as soon as you said Marshall, that's the first thing came to my head. We Are Marshall. So good branding for them, and that's pretty cool. I don't know if you have any like fun facts about Matthew McConaughey, but that's a very special thing that you got to do.
Some we probably shouldn't talk about on, but no, he was actually he stayed in character the entire time he was in town. Like, never left character. And my aunt actually was coaching a middle school track team at the time, and he would be running. He loved to run, so he would every now and then he would just stop in at their track practice and run with the kids. So kind of a cool.
Wow,
You imagine
that's amazing.
You imagine high school Steph Steeples with Matthew McConaughey showing up.
I would have like no idea who he was, but to be honest, I was so out of the loop when I was in high school, but that's pretty amazing. Really, really cool experience for you. And I just love that women's sports was your like entry into this world. And it makes a lot of sense why you are so good at capturing all of this for UVA.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I actually, full circle, women's tennis was kind of the women's tennis coach at Marshall kind of took me under their wing and was able to do a lot with them. And they were my sport as a grad assistant sports information person. I did volleyball and women's tennis at Marshall. And the coach's daughter ended up playing tennis at UVA.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
So,
what a world.
Yeah, like I remember like she was like 7 years old and I would be like the babysitter on trips. Like I would have to like go and hit with Cassie, and like she would be like, "You're terrible at tennis." And so then she shows up at UVA, and now I feel really old because she's graduated, and you know.
Did she remember that you're terrible at tennis?
Oh yeah.
I hope you got to play with her at some point, like prove that you improved.
No, I did not improve. I'm terrible at tennis. But,
that's awesome.
Yeah, so very, very interesting path. All right, let's pull this up, and I know I've taken a lot of your time. Let's pull up the trophy, the hardware shots. Do you have a favorite memory from UVA?
All my memories from UVA are so good. I mean, I am just like, I could recruit anyone to come to Virginia because I just loved it so much. It was just the perfect mix. I'll be a little nerdy and say that like I do love school and I do love the student part of being a student athlete. I had such a great experience with that side of it, but just the community that the student athletes had, the standards of excellence. I was there when JPJ was just opening up, and that was really special to have a student athlete dining hall, and it just was the perfect place to be ambitious and hungry and work for what you wanted. As I said earlier, I was a walk-on and I made NCAAs my freshman year. I was a 2-time conference champion as an individual, and I ended up earning my way to a full scholarship, and that's the kind of story that like you don't get in many places. And so I love this. I love that we're finishing with this shot. It's so crisp and clean and perfect with is this the Rotunda or is this JPJ?
This is JPJ.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, it's not the Rotunda. I meant the lawn. Yes, yeah, it's perfect. So just there's a lot of good memories, some that I'm not going to share, but it was an awesome place to be a student athlete.
Oh, great. Yeah. I think definitely the next time you're back in Charlottesville, we need to have a shoot, and, love to revisit and recreate some of these moments.
Yes, we'll fill the water pit back up, and we'll try and not get any splatters on your lens.
That sounds great. Well, I appreciate you joining me. This has been lots of fun to catch up and lots of good insight, and thanks for filling me in on the steeplechase. And I'm still trying to figure out who even came up with the idea, hey, let's jump over a hurdle or a barrier into a pool of water, but
Well, it's a horse race, and
right.
I'm sure, ambitious young men back in the whenever, like 1800s, were like, we can do this too. I say ambitious, but just drunk. I don't know, but yeah. So
Well, thank you. You were certainly a great ambassador for the University of Virginia, and we definitely wish you luck, and hopefully you can accomplish all your goals.
yes, but we still have time. I'm excited, and I always still feel that like UVA pride when I'm out there racing. So thank you so much.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me. And take care.
Wahoo!
Wahoo! Bye.